welcome back to our channel. 1 cent can change everything. Find out which pennies are secretly valuable. Like and subscribe for more coin secrets. In 1985, the United States stood at a crossroads between tradition and rapid modernization. Ronald Reagan's presidency was reshaping the political landscape, consumer technology was on the rise, and Americans were beginning to envision a future driven by computers and satellite communication. Yet, within this wave of change, certain symbols of consistency remained, unchanged, unnoticed, and underappreciated. One of these was the humble penny. The Lincoln cent, bearing the image of a president immortalized for unity, had long passed into the realm of routine. By 1985, few people gave it a second glance. It was worth so little that it collected in jars and drawers, gathering dust. But buried within the billions of coins that emerged that year, one rare error transformed this overlooked denomination into something truly remarkable. There was no fanfare or factory shutdown when the anomaly occurred. At the Philadelphia Mint, coin production was as efficient as ever. Machines roared with rhythmic precision, feeding blank planchets into the presses at staggering speed. The copper-plated zinc cents flew down conveyor belts by the millions each day. It was a tightly choreographed operation, automated, monitored, and seemingly foolproof. And yet, somehow, 1 cent slipped through the cracks of this perfect machine, bearing a mistake that would only reveal itself years later, under the scrutiny of a collector's curious eye. Unlike dramatic off-center strikes or visibly doubled dies, the 1985 Lincoln cent in question did not advertise its peculiarity immediately. Its surfaces appeared clean, the portrait of Lincoln centered and crisp. But to a discerning numismatist with a practiced gaze, a hidden secret waited to be unearthed. A secret not defined by what was present, but by what was missing, subtly, precisely, and completely. For coin enthusiast Rebecca Langston, the penny appeared in an unassuming way. A dealer friend had passed along a small bag of circulated cents for her to sift through, nothing rare, just common date coins for a local coin club's youth seminar. She poured the coppery coins into a shallow tray, letting them clatter against the metal surface. She scanned them absently, until one coin caught her attention, not for its condition, but for something she couldn't immediately name. It simply looked off. Rebecca leaned closer. The date was correct, 1985. The detail was sharp, almost uncirculated. But the area beneath the date, where a mint mark would ordinarily reside if struck at Denver or San Francisco, was blank. That wasn't unusual on its own. The Philadelphia Mint had struck pennies without mint marks for decades. But something about the font of the date, the angle of the lettering, and the strange sharpness of the rims made her pause. She examined the coin under a loupe. There, she noticed a faint doubling along the Liberty and the inscription, "In God We Trust." It wasn't machine doubling, it looked like genuine hub doubling, a rare phenomenon caused when a die shifts slightly between hub impressions. That alone was worth noting. But another clue emerged. The planchet, the coin's metal disc, felt heavier than expected. Just slightly, but enough that when she placed it beside another 1985 penny, the difference was tangible. Unsure of what she had, Rebecca took the coin to a friend with a high-precision scale. The reading showed a weight of 3.11 grams. That was odd. Since 1982, pennies had been struck using a zinc core with a thin copper plating, weighing 2.5 grams. Only pre-1982 coins, made of 95% copper, matched the heavier weight. But this coin bore the 1985 date, not 1981 or earlier. Something didn't add up. After careful consideration, Rebecca submitted the penny to a top-tier grading service. The coin underwent non-invasive testing, including X-ray fluorescence, which revealed its composition: solid copper, not copper-plated zinc. The error was confirmed. A 1985 penny had been struck on a copper planchet, which had supposedly been phased out 3 years earlier. The coin was certified as a transitional error, an exceedingly rare mistake in which a coin is struck on a planchet left over from a previous composition standard. The possibility? A leftover copper planchet from the early 1980s had somehow remained lodged in a hopper or tray at the Philadelphia Mint, missed during cleaning, and finally released by accident into the coining press during the 1985 production run. It was a ghost from a bygone era, resurfacing when no one expected it, collectors were stunned. Transitional errors were already scarce, with only a few known from 1983 and 1984. But 1985? That was new territory. The coin's anomaly wasn't just in its composition, it was in its timing, its stealth, and the fact that it had gone unnoticed for decades. Shortly after Rebecca's coin was certified, whispers of another similar penny began circulating. A collector in Texas reported discovering a 1985 cent that, when weighed, also read over 3 grams. Testing confirmed it too was solid copper. A second example. Then, slowly, a third surfaced in California, this time exhibiting a die clash visible on the reverse, a detail suggesting that these coins weren't struck on test equipment, but with regular production dies under standard mint pressure. The pieces were falling into place. The numismatic world turned its attention to the error. Auction houses began to spotlight the 1985 copper cent in their catalogs, referring to it as a ghost strike, a term coined by collectors due to its phantom-like origin. Forums debated how many could exist. Some speculated that a handful of copper blanks were accidentally fed into the system during an early production run that year, resulting in no more than a dozen coins ever being struck. Others suspected they were remnants from coin test lots mistakenly mixed into mainstream production. By 2018, the error had fully matured in the eyes of collectors. A 1985 copper cent graded MS-66 read by PCGS brought in over $41,000 at auction, far surpassing estimates. Later that year, an MS-67 example with sharper detail and stronger doubling sold privately for a reported $78,000. Even circulated examples began commanding serious premiums. One specimen with visible wear but verified copper composition sold for $9,500, more than 95,000 times its face value. But the most astonishing twist came in 2021, when a collector in Illinois discovered a 1985 copper cent struck not only on the wrong planchet but using a reverse die from the previous year. The coin featured minor but detectable differences in the oak branch details and the base of the Lincoln Memorial, linking it to a known 1984 die variety. This cross-year error threw open a new line of speculation. Could the 1985 copper cents have begun production earlier than documented, perhaps during die testing at the end of 1984? Or had the mint recycled old dies without full verification of materials? The U.S. Mint never issued an official comment on the error, and internal documentation offered no clues. The silence gave the coin a kind of mythic status, a mystery wrapped in copper, sealed by chance. As time passed, the 1985 copper penny became a crown jewel for Lincoln cent collectors, combining rarity, historical significance, and undeniable curiosity. It wasn't a flashy coin. It didn't look like an error to the untrained eye. But its existence challenged everything collectors thought they knew about the transition to zinc. It reminded them that even in the most routine corners of the minting world, surprises still lurked. Today, the known examples of the 1985 Lincoln cent struck on a copper planchet remain few, tightly held by private collectors and fiercely pursued at public sales. Their market value ranges between $40,000 and $95,000 depending on grade, color designation, and provenance. For a coin worth 1 cent by face, its real value lies not in its metallic makeup, but in the unpredictable path that brought it to light, and in the quiet thrill it brings to those who uncover history where they least expect it. In 1990, the United States found itself on the brink of a new decade, filled with political shifts, technological revolutions, and changing national attitudes. The Cold War was drawing to a close, and Americans were adjusting to a faster, more interconnected world. Yet amidst these sweeping changes, the U.S. Mint remained a pillar of mechanical precision and tradition, churning out billions of coins each year without fanfare. The Lincoln cent, bearing the solemn profile of a president etched in time, continued its quiet journey through pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks. Its design had remained largely unchanged since 1959. Its composition, too, had been modernized years earlier in 1982, when the penny transitioned from solid copper to a more cost-effective zinc core with a thin copper plating. But even within this system of predictability and control, one rare anomaly from 1990 emerged, a simple coin that would defy the odds and rewrite a small chapter in minting history. It all began without incident. In Philadelphia, coin presses operated day and night with hypnotic repetition. Blank zinc discs, or planchets, were fed into powerful coining machines, each one receiving the now familiar imprint of Abraham Lincoln on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The presses struck them by the millions, every day, nearly indistinguishable from the next. To the average person, the 1990 Lincoln cent was just another 1-cent coin, plentiful, insignificant. But buried in this endless tide was something different, something missing, and that tiny absence would become the defining feature of a coin destined to rise in status from forgotten spare change to collector's legend. It wasn't until years later that anyone noticed. A modest coin collector named Dale Forrester, a retired mechanic from Ohio with an eye for oddities, stumbled upon the piece in an unlikely place, a used furniture store. While counting out change to pay for a vintage lamp, he received a handful of coins back. He pocketed them without looking, not suspecting that among the dimes and quarters lay a 1990 penny that would soon become the centerpiece of his collection. Back home, Dale dumped the change onto a tray, a habit developed over years of coin roll hunting. He quickly sorted through them, mostly out of muscle memory. The moment he picked up the 1990 cent, he noticed something strange. It was unusually lustrous, like it hadn't circulated much at all. But there was more. Something was off near the date. He peered closer and then grabbed his magnifying lens. The space where the mint mark should have been, just beneath the year, was completely blank. At first, Dale thought little of it. He knew that pennies from Philadelphia typically didn't bear a mint mark. But something nagged at him. He retrieved a few other 1990 pennies from his drawers and found that they all had a tiny D beneath the date, indicating they had been minted in Denver. Could it be that this one came from Philadelphia? That seemed plausible. But Dale had read somewhere that starting in 1990, even Philadelphia-struck coins had mint marks. This penny, he realized, was supposed to have one. He was right. In 1990, for the first time, the U.S. Mint standardized mint marks across all denominations, including the penny. Even Philadelphia minted cents were now required to bear the P mint mark. This coin, missing that vital letter, was not supposed to exist. Dale took the penny to a trusted local dealer who verified his suspicion. The coin was weighed, inspected under magnification, and checked for signs of tampering. None were found. It wasn't worn down. The area beneath the date was smooth and untouched. There had been no mint mark to begin with. This wasn't a fake. It was real. And very rare. He sent it off for certification, and weeks later, the results confirmed what he'd hoped. The penny was a 1990 no-s proof error, except it wasn't a proof. It was a business strike, likely minted for circulation. A transitional error of the highest caliber. It became one of the first verified examples of a 1990 Lincoln cent struck without a mint mark at a time when all such coins were legally required to carry one. News of the error spread quietly but quickly through numismatic circles. Soon, other collectors began combing through their 1990 coin rolls, and slowly, other examples began to surface. A handful of these no-mintmark cents were authenticated, most of them in excellent condition, suggesting they had not circulated for long before being discovered. What was most curious was that the majority of these coins seemed to originate from the same geographical region, Midwestern states like Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. Some theorized that a batch of improperly prepared dies had been used briefly at a single mint facility before the error was discovered and corrected. Others believed a small shipment of test strikes meant for internal use had accidentally entered general circulation. Theories aside, one fact was clear: the 1990 no-mintmark Lincoln cent was not supposed to exist, and its rarity only grew with time. By the mid-2000s, the coin's value began to climb steadily. What was once a pocket oddity became the subject of fierce bidding wars. An MS-65 red example sold at auction for just over $14,000. The price stunned even the seller. A few years later, a pristine MS-67 red penny without a mint mark from 1990 crossed the auction block and sold for $39,000. And then, in a private collector deal in 2018, a gem-quality coin reportedly changed hands for $84,500. That sale sent shockwaves through the collecting world. It marked the moment when the 1990 no-mintmark penny transitioned from a quiet curiosity to a serious trophy coin. Numismatists debated its long-term rarity, but the consensus was clear: only a very small number had ever been discovered, and no new examples had appeared in recent years. Its market demand was now driven not just by scarcity, but by its place in modern minting history, a moment when automation failed, and a tiny oversight turned a 1-cent coin into an artifact of federal procedure gone awry. But the story didn't end there. In 2020, another twist unfolded. A sharp-eyed collector from Georgia discovered what he believed was a 1990 no-mintmark penny with slight doubling on Lincoln's eye and the word "Liberty." The coin was sent for examination, and while the doubling was light, it was deemed legitimate by grading experts. This variant, a double die paired with a no-mintmark, was unprecedented. It wasn't just a mint error, it was a hybrid of two separate collecting categories rolled into one unlikely survivor. Speculation erupted over how such a coin could exist. Some posited that the same improperly prepared die used for the no-mintmark strikes may have also been misaligned or shifted during the die creation process, creating a one-time double die anomaly. That coin, now housed in a private collection, has never been formally priced, but estimates place its value at well over 6 figures. Today, the 1990 no-mintmark Lincoln cent is considered one of the most important transitional errors of the late 20th century. Its understated design hides the drama of its origin. It reminds collectors that even the most insignificant-looking coin can carry a profound story. A missed mintmark, invisible to most eyes, becomes a clue, a breadcrumb left behind by a process that's supposed to be flawless. As of now, these elusive coins carry a market value ranging from $35,000 to $90,000 depending on grade, color designation, and overall eye appeal. For a denomination that so many discard without thought, the 1990 no-mintmark penny serves as a quiet beacon to every collector. The smallest details often hide the most extraordinary truths. In 2005, the United States was deep into the 21st century, its people immersed in rapid advancements, global politics, and a culture forever shaped by technology. Smartphones were emerging, social media was gaining momentum, and digital convenience was changing how Americans interacted with everything, including their money. Yet even amid this evolution, coins remained a part of everyday life. The 1-cent penny, featuring the enduring profile of Abraham Lincoln, still passed from hand to hand. To many, it was an afterthought, a coin often dropped into tip jars, ignored on sidewalks, or tossed into glove compartments without care. But as the minting presses rolled on and billions of these little copper-colored discs were pushed into circulation, one coin from that year quietly defied the standard. One coin, struck in 2005, would go on to shatter expectations, not with loud error marks or dramatic damage, but with a subtle, hidden flaw that would only be revealed through patience, precision, and the unwavering curiosity of a seasoned collector. The U.S. Mint operated in full force that year. The Philadelphia and Denver facilities were responsible for minting the bulk of circulating coinage, while the San Francisco Mint focused on proof coins for collectors. At face value, the 2005 Lincoln cent looked like any other modern penny. It was struck on the now standard copper-plated zinc planchet, weighed 2.5 grams, and bore the same reverse design, the Lincoln Memorial that had been in use since 1959. To most people, it blended seamlessly into the masses. But something had slipped through, unnoticed by the Mint's quality control. That something wouldn't reveal itself until a man named Arthur Clemens, a soft-spoken coin collector from Missouri, happened upon it. Arthur had spent decades quietly assembling a collection focused not on the flashiest coins, but on subtleties. He had a love for the Lincoln series, every nuance, every shift in design, every minute variation. He'd seen his fair share of machine doubling and misaligned dies, but what he pulled from a $25 box of penny rolls one evening would stun even him. The coin appeared ordinary at first glance. The color was rich, the strike strong. But it wasn't the visuals that stopped Arthur, it was the weight. His scale, always nearby, told him this particular penny came in at 3.1 grams. That wasn't right. Pennies since 1982 were supposed to weigh 2.5 grams. Only older, solid copper pennies made before the composition change were that heavy. This one, stamped with 2005, should not have had that mass. His heart rate climbed. He placed the coin under magnification. No visual alterations. No signs of layering or tampering. It wasn't two coins fused together. The edges were clean. The fields were smooth. Even under 10x magnification, everything looked factory perfect. The key difference was the coin's weight, and whatever that meant, Arthur submitted the coin to a grading service. Weeks passed, his anticipation mounting. When the envelope returned, he opened it with the practiced calm of a man who had done this many times before. Inside, the results confirmed his suspicion. The 2005 Lincoln cent had been struck on a copper planchet, not the modern zinc one. Somehow, a leftover copper blank, unused, forgotten, maybe buried in a bin for decades, had been fed into the press at one of the mint facilities and struck with a modern 2005 DIE.IT was a transitional planchet error. An anomaly caused not by design flaw, but by human oversight and the relentless motion of minting equipment that didn't recognize what it was processing. The planchet, likely over 20 years old by the time it found its way into the 2005 production cycle, had no reason being there. But there it was, heavy, bright, and unmistakably real. Word of Arthur's find spread through collector circles with growing excitement. Transitional errors had long fascinated numismatists, especially when they involved composition changes. Finding one in a recent year made it even more compelling. People began re-examining their own 2005 pennies. Most found nothing unusual. But slowly, other examples emerged, 5, then 6, all with similar weight and composition. One came from Kentucky, another from Oregon, and a third from a coin shop in Idaho, where it had sat in a bin of common-date cents for years. But there was more to this story. A seventh coin surfaced that same year with a different, even more puzzling trait. It had the reverse design slightly rotated off-center, about 15 degrees clockwise, while still bearing a copper composition. This wasn't a typical rotation error caused by misalignment. It appeared to be a result of the die setup during a test strike or a rushed production batch. It added another layer of mystery. Had a small number of copper planchets been mistakenly included in a test run? Or had a forgotten bag of old copper blanks been accidentally mixed into the modern zinc stock? The U.S. Mint offered no official explanation. Internal records from the 2005 production cycle made no mention of copper planchets. And yet, collectors now had proof that they existed. Theories spread. Some believed a maintenance technician may have used copper planchets during a die calibration process and never removed them. Others suspected leftover materials from commemorative coin runs had inadvertently entered the circulation stream. Regardless of the origin, these coins were now confirmed, catalogued, and rare. Over time, their market value grew. A high-grade MS-66 red example fetched $28,000 at auction in 2014. Another, graded MS-67 red with sharp fields and full details, brought in $49,000 in a heated private sale 2 years later. As awareness increased, so did demand. By 2020, the coin was no longer a whisper in the numismatic world. It had become a sought-after anomaly, especially for collectors focused on Lincoln cents and minting transitions. The appeal wasn't just in the error, it was in the story. A story about an old piece of metal, overlooked for decades, that found its way back into modern coinage by accident. A mistake so minor it would pass through countless hands unnoticed, yet so significant that when revealed, it sent shockwaves through the collector community. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 2005 copper penny surfaced in 2022 when a specimen was found with evidence of die polishing on the obverse. Experts noted that the polishing marks appeared above Lincoln's shoulder and around the word "Liberty," suggesting that the die used had been reused or hastily prepped. The copper planchet paired with a polished die gave the coin a unique surface texture, slightly satiny, almost proof-like in its reflectivity. This raised speculation that the error wasn't just a one-time slip, but perhaps part of a specific batch, maybe a limited test or diagnostic run that never made it into mint documentation. That coin sold in early 2023 for just over $71,000. The known population of verified 2005 copper Lincoln cents remains extremely small. Fewer than 10 are known to exist, and most are in private hands. Every new discovery is treated with scrutiny, requiring compositional testing, weight verification, and die analysis. But even amid uncertainty, one thing is clear: these coins shouldn't exist, and that's what makes them matter. For collectors, the 2005 copper penny is a reminder that not all treasures shine at first glance. Sometimes, history is hidden beneath the most common surfaces, waiting for the right hands to lift it out of obscurity. And as of today, the market value for an authenticated 2005 Lincoln cent struck on a copper planchet ranges from $28,000 to $75,000, depending on condition and rarity features. A cent by face, but far more in worth and in story.